Episode 1 Shattered Life, Savage World. The crumpled foreclosure notice lay in the trash, its bold red letters seared into my memory like a scar that would never fade. Foreclosed. Property seized. The words mocked me. They weren't just about a house. They were the final nail in the coffin of everything I once knew as home. My fingers still trembled as I gripped the steering wheel, staring at the peeling paint of the two-story house where I had grown up. The roses my mother once cared for had long withered, overtaken by weeds. The laughter that once filled its halls was replaced by silence and shadows. I had nothing left here. Nothing but memories, and even those hurt too much to hold on to. The hospital's machines had already done the job of reminding me that life could be cruel. Watching my mother fade, her body shrinking into the bed, her breath rattling through the tubes, was torture in its slowest form. She used to be so alive, her cheeks flushed from wine, her voice bright with stories of love and loss, of resilience. She had been my anchor. And now, she was slipping away, leaving me adrift in waters I couldn't navigate. I thought that would be the hardest moment of my life. But standing here, with a house I could no longer claim and a future I couldn't imagine, I realized life had more cruelties in store. I shoved the last box into the trunk of my car, the bottles of alcohol rattling as they settled. I hated her drinking, hated what it had done to her, to us. But as I closed the trunk, I found myself wishing for one last chance to hear the cap twist off, to see her grin through the rim of a glass, to hear her laughter once more. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Goodbye, I whispered to the empty house, my voice cracking. Then I drove. I didn't know where I was going, only that it had to be away. Away from the memories, away from the loss, away from everything that reminded me I was alone. The highway stretched on like an endless scar across the earth. My old car groaned beneath me, headlights piercing the night. The farther I went, the darker it became. The moon hung low, swollen and red, casting a strange glow across the road. A storm was brewing, not in the sky, but in my chest. Something tugged at me, a primal fear I couldn't explain. Every instinct screamed to turn back, but I didn't. I pressed harder on the accelerator, trying to outrun the emptiness clawing at my heart. That's when the engine sputtered. "Don't you dare," I muttered, slapping the dashboard. The car coughed, wheezed, then died. Perfect. I coasted to the side of the deserted road, cursing under my breath. Darkness swallowed me whole. No cars passed. No lights in the distance. Just silence, and the sound of something moving in the trees. At first, I thought it was just the wind. Leaves rustling, branches creaking. But then I heard it. Footsteps. Too heavy, too deliberate to be the wind. I froze, my breath hitching. "Hello." My voice cracked as I called out, hating the fear lacing through it. No answer. Then, another sound. Low. Deep. A growl. My blood turned to ice. Before I could move, something massive leapt from the tree-line, knocking me backward into the dirt. My scream ripped through the night as claws pinned my shoulders. Glowing amber eyes stared down at me, feral and unrelenting. A wolf, but impossibly huge, its fur dark as shadows, its teeth bared inches from my face. I thrashed beneath it, panic taking over. "Please, don't." The beast snarled, hot breath washing over my skin. Its gaze locked onto mine, and for a moment, I swore I saw something more than animal hunger. Recognition. It didn't kill me. It only held me there, pressing me into the earth, as if testing me, claiming me. And then, voices. "Alpha, we found her." The wolf stepped back, its massive body trembling. Before my eyes, bones shifted, muscles contorted, fur receded. What stood before me now was not a wolf but a man. Tall, broad, bare skin gleaming in the moonlight. His eyes, those same amber eyes, burned with a savage intensity. I scrambled backward, heart pounding. He stepped closer, a cruel smile tugging at his lips. "You wandered into my land, little human." His voice was a low rumble, dangerous and intoxicating. "That makes you mine." My voice trembled. "What do you want from me?" His smile widened. "Everything." And in that moment, as his shadow fell over me, I realized my shattered life had only been the beginning. Because whatever he was, whatever world I had stumbled into, it was about to consume me whole. Episode 2, The Savage Alpha King. The night was endless. The forest still echoed with the sound of my shallow breaths as rough hands yanked me upward. My knees scraped the dirt as I was hauled toward the looming figure who had shifted from wolf to man before my terrified eyes. His amber gaze followed every movement, his chest still rising and falling with the remnants of a primal rage that seemed barely leashed. I stumbled, catching my footing, but the moment I tried to resist, one of his men shoved me forward. "Careful," the alpha growled, his voice smooth yet layered with a menace that raised goosebumps along my arms. She's mine now. The wolves, men, half-shifted, their eyes glowing in the moonlight, bowed their heads immediately. Yes, Alpha Damian. Damian. The name was like a curse in the air, a name they all seemed to fear and revere in equal measure. I wanted to scream, to protest, to run, but something about the way his gaze pinned me kept me frozen in place. The march through the forest was brutal. Roots caught my ankles, branches whipped across my face, and still, they forced me forward. My wrists were bound with coarse rope, each tug cutting into my skin until it burned raw. Behind me, his presence was constant, silent but overwhelming, like the shadow of a predator waiting for me to stumble. Finally, we emerged into a clearing. My breath hitched. Before me stood a fortress. Tall, black stone walls rose into the sky, crowned with iron spikes. Fires burned in great braziers, casting flickering light across the jagged towers. At the gates, sentries knelt as Damian approached, their gazes flicking curiously to me, then away quickly, as if afraid to linger. "Open it," Damian ordered, his tone brooking no argument. The massive gates creaked, and I was dragged inside. The pack's territory was alive with noise and movement. Wolves padded through the courtyard, their fur glistening under torchlight. Warriors trained with spears and claws, their snarls punctuating the night. Children darted between houses, though they froze at the sight of Damian, bowing their heads instinctively. And me. The air shifted. Conversations fell silent. Eyes tracked me, confusion giving way to mockery. A human. Among wolves. She's weak, one scoffed. Not even a wolf blood. Why would the alpha bring her? Another whispered. Maybe he's keeping her as prey. My stomach churned. I wanted to vanish, to melt into the dirt. But Damian's voice cut through the murmurs. Silence. Instant obedience. Every wolf lowered their gaze. She is under my protection. His words rolled like thunder. Anyone who challenges her, challenges me. The air turned sharp, every head bowing deeper. And me? My heart stuttered violently in my chest. His protection? I didn't ask for it. Didn't want it. Yet the way he said it made it sound less like kindness and more like a death sentence. They led me into the fortress. The halls were cavernous, lined with ancient banners bearing a silver wolf emblem. Firelight flickered across stone, illuminating scenes of battles etched into the walls. Blood, war, dominance. At the center was a throne room. Massive, cold, and intimidating. Damian strode to the throne as though it belonged to him alone, his every step radiating authority. He sat, sprawling with effortless dominance, and gestured for them to bring me forward. I was shoved onto my knees before him. His amber gaze raked over me slowly, deliberately, as though assessing every inch of weakness. "What's your name?" he asked finally. My voice cracked. "Aria. Aria," he repeated, tasting the syllables as if they belonged to him now. A fragile name for a fragile creature. His smirk was cruel. "Tell me, Aria, do you know what land you wandered into?" I shook my head. "This is the heart of the savage pack," he said. His voice reverberated through the chamber, making my bones ache. "And I am its king." My stomach dropped. The savage pack. I had heard whispers, even among humans, tales of brutality, of wolves who tore apart their enemies and answered only to a ruler more beast than man. And I had stumbled into the lair of their alpha king. Damian leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees, eyes narrowing. "You trespassed. By all rights, I could have killed you." My throat tightened. "Then why didn't you?" The smile that spread across his lips was sharp as a blade. "Because the moon has a cruel sense of humor." He stood, approaching with slow, measured steps. I scrambled backward, but rough hands from the guards held me in place. Damian crouched before me, his hand gripping my chin with a force that brooked no resistance. His eyes bore into mine, molten and dangerous. "I smelled it the moment I touched you." His voice was a whisper now, dark and intimate. "The bond." My breath caught. "The what?" He leaned closer, lips brushing my ear. "You're mine, little human. The goddess chose you for me." The room tilted. My heart pounded. "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "That's not possible. I'm human. I can't." His growl silenced me. Low, primal, vibrating through my bones. "You will not deny me." His fingers tightened painfully on my chin. "You may be human, but you are mine. My mate." Gasps rippled through the guards. Even they hadn't expected this. A human, as their alpha's mate? Disbelief. Scorn. Some looked furious. "She'll weaken us," one muttered. "She's not worthy of the bond," another hissed. Damian's eyes flashed dangerously. He didn't look at them, only at me, but his voice cut across the room. "Anyone who questions my bond will answer with their life." The guards bowed instantly, though resentment still lingered in their eyes. I felt sick. My wrists throbbed against the ropes. My lungs burned as I tried to breathe. "Mate? No." He was wrong. The moon goddess couldn't be that cruel. Could she? That night, they threw me into a chamber deep within the fortress. The stone walls were cold, the air damp. A heavy wooden door barred any hope of escape. A single window, high and narrow, showed only the sliver of a blood-red moon. I curled up on the hard cot, trembling. Every moment replayed in my mind. His eyes, his voice, that word, mate. I had lost my mother, lost my home, and now, fate had tied me to the most ruthless alpha alive. But as I stared at the moon, I felt something stir deep inside me. Not just fear, something else, something dangerous. Because as much as I wanted to deny it, when his hand had gripped my chin and his gaze had burned into mine, a part of me had felt it too. The bond. Episode 3, Prison of Desire. The stone walls closed around me like the ribs of a beast intent on swallowing me whole. Damp, cold, and silent, except for the faint drip of water that echoed endlessly, a reminder of how alone I was. The cot beneath me was little more than a slab with straw, its rough surface scratching through the thin fabric of my clothes. I hugged my knees to my chest, rocking slightly as the reality pressed down harder with every heartbeat. Mother, home, gone. And now this. A fortress of wolves, a throne carved in blood, and an alpha king who looked at me as though I had been carved for him alone. I shivered, not from the cold, but from the memory of his eyes, the way they seemed to see through my skin, down to the very bones of me. The way his grip had claimed my chin, his words curling like chains around my throat. You're mine. The word pulsed in my mind like a curse. Mate. I pressed my palms over my ears as if I could block it out, but no matter how hard I tried, the echo remained. Morning, or what I guessed was morning, broke with the heavy clang of the cell door unlocking. I jumped to my feet, heart lurching into my throat. The door groaned open, and there he was. Damian. He filled the doorway, broad shoulders cloaked in black, amber eyes catching the torchlight like molten fire. 2 guards flanked him but remained outside, bowing before retreating a step. He stepped in alone. My pulse stuttered. I backed away instinctively until my spine hit the wall. Stay away from me, I whispered, though my voice was too thin, too shaky to sound convincing. His lips curved, not into a smile, but into something far sharper. Still pretending you don't feel it. I shook my head violently. There is nothing to feel. You're wrong. I don't belong to you. He moved closer, slow, deliberate, until the air seemed to thrum with the energy between us. The bond doesn't lie, little human. Deny it all you want. Your body already knows. Heat licked across my skin at his words, and I hated myself for it. Stop, I whispered, voice cracking. Just stop. He tilted his head, studying me as though I were some rare creature he couldn't quite decide whether to crush or keep. Then, without warning, his hand shot out, gripping my wrist. I gasped as sparks flared beneath my skin. Sharp, electric, undeniable. My knees weakened, and I hated that too. See, his voice was low, triumphant, yet tinged with something raw. It burns because you are mine. I wrenched my hand back, stumbling away. It burns because you're poison. For a moment, silence stretched. His jaw tightened, amber eyes flashing dangerously. Then he turned, pacing the small cell as though caging his own temper. When he spoke again, his voice was calmer, but no less frightening. The pack questions you. They think you will weaken me. They think I should tear you apart and be done with it. He turned, gaze locking on mine. But I won't. Because the goddess gave you to me, and I will not reject her gift. Gift. My stomach twisted at the word. I'm not a gift, I spat. I'm a person, and I will never accept you. For a heartbeat, fury flickered in his eyes. But then, something softer. A flash of pain, so quick I almost thought I imagined it. He leaned closer, voice dropping to a near growl. You will, or you will break, trying to resist me. Then, just as abruptly, he spun and left, the heavy door slamming shut behind him. Days blurred together. Food was brought, bread, meat, fruit. Enough to keep me alive, though tasteless under the weight of fear. Guards came and went, their eyes filled with contempt, some with pity. I overheard whispers. She's human. She'll be his downfall. He's blinded by the bond. A king doesn't need a weak mate. Better she dies before the goddess's mistake costs us everything. Their words were knives, cutting deeper each time. But beneath the fear, anger sparked. How dare they decide my worth? How dare they call me weak when they had no idea of the battles I had already fought? Watching my mother fade, losing everything I had ever known, standing here in chains, and still breathing. If weakness meant surviving all of that, then maybe I was stronger than any of them. On the 4th night, he came again. No guards this time. Just him. The door shut behind him, and suddenly the cell felt smaller, air charged with something heavy and unspoken. You haven't eaten, he said, his eyes scanning the untouched plate in the corner. I'm not hungry. You'll make yourself sick. Maybe that's better, I shot back bitterly. In 2 strides, he was in front of me, pinning me against the wall with one arm braced beside my head. His scent, earth, smoke, and something wild, wrapped around me, making my thoughts scatter. Do not speak of death, he growled, eyes flashing. You don't get to give up. Not when you are mine. My breath came in shallow gasps, my heart a drumbeat of panic and something else I refused to name. You keep saying that, I whispered. But I don't belong to you. I'll never belong to you. For a moment, I thought he would snap. His jaw clenched, his muscles taut with restraint. But then, slowly, his free hand lifted, brushing a stray strand of hair from my face. The touch was gentle, too gentle for the monster I believed him to be. And that was what terrified me most. Because for a fleeting second, I wanted to lean into it. That night, long after he left, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My body still buzzed where his hand had touched me, where his presence had pressed so close. I hated him. I feared him. And yet, the bond whispered beneath my skin, a constant pull I couldn't shake. A prison of desire, built not of stone, but of fate itself. And I didn't know if I had the strength to escape it. Episode 4, The Hunt and the Rival. The cell door opened with a sound that grated against my nerves, its heavy echo bouncing across stone walls. I had grown accustomed to the rhythm of these visits. But this time, something was different. Damian wasn't dressed in his usual black cloak. Instead, he wore armor, polished leather, trimmed with steel that caught the torchlight in gleams of menace. His hair was tied back, exposing the sharp lines of his jaw, and his amber eyes glowed like embers in the dark. Get up, he commanded. My throat tightened. Why? His lips twitched, not quite a smile. Because today, little human, you'll see the world outside these walls. You'll see my world. I didn't move. The cot beneath me felt like the only safe place left, though it was nothing more than a pile of straw. In 2 strides, he was upon me, his hand gripping my arm with a force that sent sparks racing under my skin. I flinched, hating that sensation, hating the way my pulse betrayed me. Let go, I snapped, twisting against him. He leaned close, his voice a dangerous whisper. Defy me all you want, Aria, but you will walk beside me today. The court demands it. The court. His eyes flickered. A king does not walk alone. And I will not let them think you are weak. Weak. The word stabbed me deeper than I expected. Before I could protest again, he pulled me to my feet. Guards stood waiting outside with garments draped over their arms. An elegant dress of deep crimson, the fabric rich and heavy, designed to accentuate curves I wished to hide. I shook my head. I won't wear that. Damian's gaze darkened. He stepped closer until his breath brushed my ear. You will wear it, or I'll have it torn onto your skin myself. My breath caught. The cruel edge in his tone left no room for refusal. With trembling hands, I took the dress. By the time I emerged, clad in the gown and bound by its weight, the world outside the dungeon felt alien. The sunlight stabbed at my eyes, and the scents of pine, earth, and wolf musk filled the air. Before me stretched a grand courtyard, banners fluttering crimson and gold. Dozens of lichens and wolves milled about, armed with spears and bows. Horses stamped the ground, their breath clouding in the crisp morning air. Laughter and snarls blended in a chorus of tension and anticipation. The royal hunt. It was not the kind of hunt I imagined. This was no game, no leisurely chase. It was a spectacle, a performance of dominance, where blood would stain the earth and only the strongest would return with prey. And I was to walk beside the Alpha King. As we moved through the crowd, eyes turned. Some filled with disdain, others with curiosity. Whispers rose like a wave. She's human? Unworthy. Look at her, trembling. She'll never survive the bond. I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms. Then, a voice rang out, dripping with venom. Your Majesty. I turned. A woman stepped forward, tall, statuesque, her raven hair braided with silver threads. Her gown was adorned with furs, and her eyes glimmered with calculated malice. Celine. I didn't know her name yet, but I knew what she was the moment I saw her. A rival. She dipped in a shallow curtsy before straightening with a smile that wasn't a smile at all. So this is the mate the moon goddess chose for you? Forgive me, but she looks fragile. Damian's arm tightened around mine. Fragile things can be deadly, he said, his voice sharp as steel. Celine's gaze slid over me, dismissive. Perhaps. Or perhaps she'll break before the season is out. A king requires strength beside him. The meaning was clear. She thought herself more suited to the throne. I opened my mouth, a retort burning on my tongue, but Damian's grip silenced me. His eyes locked on Celine's, a warning unspoken. Careful, he growled softly. Celine only smiled wider. The hunt began at the forest's edge. Horns blared, and the crowd surged forward, wolves shifting into massive forms, lichens charging ahead, their howls splitting the sky. I had never seen anything like it. The sheer power of them shook the ground beneath my feet. My heart hammered with terror, awe, and a reluctant spark of fascination. Damian stayed close, his presence overwhelming. He didn't shift, not yet. His hand remained on my back, steering me deeper into the forest shadows. Then, from the trees, another figure emerged. Tall, muscled, his hair a cascade of golden curls, his smile sharp as a blade. His eyes locked on me with interest that made my stomach twist. Damian, he drawled. You didn't tell me your mate was so intriguing. Damian's body stiffened beside me. Ronan. The name hung between them like a challenge. Ronan stepped closer, his gaze never leaving mine. A human, isn't she? Brave of the goddess, reckless even. Tell me, little one, do you know what kind of cage you've walked into? Before I could answer, Damian moved, fast, brutal. His hand gripped Ronan's throat, slamming him back against a tree. She is not yours to speak to, Damian snarled. Ronan only laughed, even as his breath strained. Ah, there it is. The king's temper. I wonder, Damian, how long until it drives her away? Damian's amber eyes blazed. For a moment, I thought he would crush Ronan's windpipe then and there. But with a growl, he released him, shoving him back into the shadows. This hunt is mine, Damian said. Stay out of my way. Ronan's smile lingered as he vanished into the trees. But the way his eyes lingered on me told me this was not the last I'd see of him. The rest of the hunt blurred in violence and blood. Wolves tore through prey, lichens roared, and Damian finally shifted beside me. A creature of terror and beauty, his form massive, his fur black as midnight, his eyes burning gold. And through it all, I stood at the center of their chaos, a human girl tethered to a king. By the end, when the horns sounded again and the pack returned triumphant, I was shaking. Not from fear alone, but from the realization that I had seen another side of Damian. Protective, possessive, ruthless. And when his hand brushed mine again, sparks igniting my skin, I wondered, terrified, if the bond between us was already tightening. Because even in the prison of his desire, part of me had begun to wonder what it would mean to surrender. Episode 5, Blood Moon Bond. The night sky was different. I knew it the moment we stepped into the clearing, the moment my eyes lifted to the heavens and met the swollen red orb that hung there like a wound. The blood moon. Its light drenched the land in crimson, turning every shadow into something sharper, every breath into something heavier. The forest no longer smelled of pine or earth. It smelled of blood. Around us, the court had gathered, wolves and lichens alike, their voices low murmurs that carried the weight of old tradition. Some eyes glowed in the darkness, hungry, expectant. At the center of it all stood the stone altar, ancient, cracked, but still pulsing with the energy of 1,000 past rituals. And I was being led straight to it. Damian's hand never left my back. His touch was firm, unyielding, steering me forward as though I were not human flesh but something fragile carved of glass. My voice cracked against the silence. What is this? The blood moon bond, Damian said, his tone flat, almost detached. Every Luna must endure it. Every king's mate must prove herself before the goddess. My chest tightened. And if I don't? His gaze flicked toward me, amber eyes glimmering under the blood light. Then they will never accept you. And I will never forgive you. I stumbled, his words striking deeper than I expected. Never forgive. He spoke as if this bond were already written in stone, as if my choice no longer mattered. Celine's voice cut through the crowd. She won't last, she said, her tone mocking, loud enough for all to hear. The little human will break before the first drop of blood touches her skin. A ripple of laughter followed. My nails dug into my palms. I wanted to shout, to spit, to tell them I didn't care what they thought. But the altar loomed before me, and my throat was too dry to speak. Damian leaned down, his breath brushing my ear. Ignore them. Look at me. I did unwillingly. And in that instant, the world blurred. The crowd vanished, the altar faded, and there was only his gaze, intense, unyielding, promising both ruin and salvation. The ritual began. Elders stepped forward, their robes crimson, their hands clutching daggers carved of bone. One of them raised his voice, ancient words spilling into the night. By the blood moon, the bond shall be tested. By flesh, by pain, by the goddess's fire, the mate shall prove her worth. If she stands, the bond is eternal. If she falls, the bond is broken. My pulse thundered. Eternal. Broken. No in between. The elder approached, the dagger gleaming in the moonlight. My breath hitched as the blade sliced across my palm. Warm blood welled up instantly, dripping onto the altar stone. The moment it touched, the stone glowed red, light snaking across its surface like veins. Then the fire came. Not physical flames, but something deeper, searing through my veins, igniting every nerve ending in my body. I gasped, clutching the stone, but the fire only spread, curling around my heart, clawing into my lungs. I collapsed to my knees, trembling. Voices swelled around me. She's weak. She won't survive. Unworthy. Celine's laugh rang louder than the rest. I wanted to scream, to deny them, but the fire stole my voice, pressing me to the edge of oblivion. Through the haze, a shadow loomed. Damian. He was kneeling in front of me, his hand gripping my chin, forcing my gaze back to his. His voice was a growl, raw and fierce. Stay with me. Tears blurred my vision. I can't. Yes, you can, he snapped, his tone both brutal and desperate. You are mine, Aria. Do you hear me? Mine. The bond will not break. You will not break. Something in his voice shattered through the fire. Not command. Not cruelty. Something else, fear. Fear of losing me. And in that flicker of truth, I found strength I didn't know I had. My blood roared. The fire shifted, and instead of consuming me, it wrapped around me, threading into my veins like molten steel. I screamed, not in pain, but in defiance. The altar blazed, light bursting outward in a shockwave that sent the crowd stumbling back. When it cleared, I was still on my knees, shaking, breathless. But I was alive. And the bond, it was there. I could feel it. Stronger, tighter, undeniable. A thread of energy binding me to Damian, pulling me toward him with terrifying certainty. He pulled me into his arms, crushing me against his chest. His heart hammered against mine, his breath ragged. You're mine, he whispered again, softer this time. Almost broken. And for the first time, I didn't pull away. But even as his arms wrapped around me, I felt another gaze. Ronan, standing at the edge of the clearing, his smile sharp, his eyes locked on me. Not with disdain, not with pity, but with hunger. The hunt was far from over, and the blood moon had only just begun to weave its curse. Episode 6, Betrayals in the Pack. The morning after the blood moon felt like waking from a dream I hadn't agreed to have. I stood before the mirror, my palm still bandaged where the dagger had sliced me. The wound was shallow, but the mark it left inside me wasn't. Even now, if I closed my eyes, I could still feel the fire of the ritual burning in my veins, binding me tighter to Damian than chains ever could. Except now, the chains weren't visible. They were under my skin, in my blood. I hated it. And yet, when my gaze wandered to the figure on the balcony, Damian, bare-chested, the morning light gilding the scars across his body, my chest tightened in a way that terrified me. No, don't start. Don't fall into this. I turned away, clutching my robe tighter around myself. I didn't belong here. Not in this palace of stone and steel, not in the king's chambers, not in his world. But the pack thought otherwise. The council chamber was already crowded when Damian led me in. Every noble, every elder, every warrior of high rank sat in semicircle rows, their gazes sharp and unwelcoming. Some bowed their heads when Damian passed. Most didn't. And when their eyes shifted to me, the air grew colder. Celine was there too, draped in silks, her hair a cascade of gold. She looked every inch the Luna they wanted me to be. Except she wasn't me. Her smile was delicate, sweet even, but her eyes gleamed like daggers. Majesty, she purred as Damian took his seat. And mate. Her gaze lingered on me with mock reverence. It is such a relief to see her survive the ritual. Though, some whisper the fire did not burn naturally, that it was manipulated. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Damian's jaw tightened. Whose whispers? Celine lowered her lashes, feigning innocence. Oh, you know how gossip travels. Some say the bond glowed too bright, too violent. That the moon goddess does not choose humans without assistance. The implication struck like a blade. She was calling me a fraud. My breath hitched, but before I could speak, another voice cut through the room. Ronan. He stood, tall and commanding, his presence filling the chamber like smoke. Celine merely echoes what many are thinking, my king. A bond forged in such spectacle, should we not examine it? If your mate's worthiness is questioned, then your own authority is at risk. The chamber buzzed with approval. Damian's claws dug into the armrest of his throne, splintering wood. You dare to question? Ronan's voice rose, smooth and steady. Yes, for the pack's survival I dare. Do you not, Majesty, owe it to us to ensure your Luna is not a weakness? His eyes flicked to me, cold and assessing. She reeks of fragility, of mortality. If the bond breaks, so does your reign. Gasps filled the hall. My nails dug into my palms. He wants to make me the wedge, the flaw, the excuse to tear Damian down. I took a step forward before I realized what I was doing. If I am a weakness, I said, my voice ringing clearer than I thought possible, then why did I survive the blood moon when others have fallen? If I am unworthy, then why does the bond still hold? Ronan's smile curved. Or perhaps, little human, it is he who carries the strength, and you are merely the tether he drags behind. The laughter of a few nobles echoed, sharp and cruel. My body shook, fury and humiliation colliding in my chest. Before I could speak again, Damian's growl thundered across the chamber, shaking the stone walls. Enough. The air turned suffocating, power radiating from him in waves. His amber eyes burned as they swept across the assembly. Any who question my mate, question me. Any who insult her, insult the goddess who chose her. And I do not forgive blasphemy. Silence. Heavy. Oppressive. No one dared breathe. But even as heads bowed, I caught the flicker of defiance in Ronan's gaze. He wasn't done. Neither was Celine. That night, whispers followed me through the palace corridors. Servants paused their conversations when I passed, eyes darting toward me, then away. I caught fragments, not true Luna. Witchcraft. Curse. Each word dug into me, but I forced myself to keep walking. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. Yet, when I entered my chambers, a folded parchment lay on my pillow. I froze. Unfolding it, my breath caught. It was a list. Names. Half the council. Elders. Nobles. All marked with a single sigil, a wolf's head split down the center. And beneath it, one sentence scrawled in jagged ink. They are not his. They are mine. Ronan's mark. My fingers trembled. The pack was splintering. Betrayal was no longer whispered, it was organized. I sank onto the bed, the parchment burning in my hand. For the first time, I understood. I wasn't just a mate. I wasn't just a bond. I was a weapon, and they would use me to break him. Damian found me an hour later, the parchment still clutched in my hand. His eyes darkened the moment he saw it. Where did you get this? He demanded. It was here, waiting for me. His jaw clenched, the muscles working furiously. For a moment, he looked ready to tear the walls down stone by stone. Then his gaze softened, just barely, as it landed on me. They will try to use you against me, he said, his voice low. But they will not succeed. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. What if they're right? What if I am the weakness they see? His hand cupped my face, rough and warm. Then you will become stronger. With me. The bond pulsed between us, fierce and undeniable. And for the first time, I let it steady me instead of terrify me. But deep down, I knew the truth. Strength wouldn't be enough. Because betrayal wasn't just in the whispers. It was already among us. And when it surfaced, it would tear the pack apart. Episode 7, Chains of the Heart. The night air was heavy with the scent of rain, though the sky above the palace was still clear. I leaned against the balcony railing, staring into the endless stretch of forest. The parchment Ronan had left me still burned in my memory. Those names, that sigil. A promise of treachery. I should have told Damian more. I should have demanded he tear the council apart before they could tear us apart. But the truth was, I didn't trust myself. Not with him. Not with the way my pulse quickened when he entered the room. Not with the way the bond hummed whenever his amber eyes locked on me, making me feel both terrified and alive. It's the bond, I reminded myself. Not you. Never you. Damian found me there, as he always seemed to. You're awake, he murmured, his voice low as thunder before a storm. I didn't look at him. Hard to sleep when half your pack wants me dead. He moved closer, the warmth of his presence wrapping around me like a cloak. They want what they cannot understand. That is fear, not hate. I turned then, meeting his gaze. Fear turns into hate, and hate into betrayal. Don't pretend you don't see it. His jaw clenched, but his hand reached out, brushing against mine. The contact sparked fire through my veins. I see it, he admitted. I see everything. But I also see you, and I will not let them take you from me. The words struck something deep, something dangerous. Do you hear yourself? I whispered. That's not devotion, Damian. That's possession. You speak as if I belong to you. His expression darkened, but not with anger, something deeper, rawer. Because you do. His voice was fierce, not as a prisoner, as my Luna, my equal, my heart. I shook my head, pulling my hand free. You call it love? I call it chains. The silence that fell between us was unbearable. The next day, whispers turned into actions. The palace gates had been breached, just for a moment, but it was enough to show how deeply Ronan's influence had spread. Several guards were found dead, their throats slashed. On their uniforms, the wolf's head sigil was carved in blood. Damian's fury was unmatched. His command echoed through the halls, summoning warriors, locking down the palace. But even as steel clashed and orders flew, the unease in my chest only grew. Because I wasn't afraid of Ronan. I was afraid of what Damian would become to stop him. That night, the attack came. I was in the library when the sound of steel shattered the quiet. The doors burst open, and masked figures poured in, their blades glinting. "Get her," one of them snarled. My heart thundered. I ran, shelves splintering as claws tore through wood. Hands grabbed at me, and I fought, biting, clawing, screaming, but they were too many, until the room exploded with power. Damian. He tore through them like a storm given flesh, his claws ripping, his fangs dripping crimson. Every strike was brutal, precise. And when the last one fell, his chest heaved, his body painted in blood not his own. He turned to me then, and in his eyes, I saw not the king, not the alpha, just a man terrified of losing me. "You're hurt?" he demanded, rushing to me. I shook my head, trembling. "No, I'm fine." His hands cupped my face, his forehead pressing to mine. "You are mine," he whispered hoarsely, "and I will burn this world before I let them touch you again." The bond surged, fierce and undeniable. And for the first time, I didn't fight it. I let myself sink into it, into him, into the warmth of his arms. Because in that moment, I realized the truth I had been running from. I wanted him, even if it meant chaining myself to him forever. But when I woke in his bed the next morning, the sunlight filtering across his sleeping form, the weight of it all crashed down again. Yes, I wanted him. But what if my love was just another cage? What if the chains of his heart were the very thing that would destroy me? I slipped from the bed, silent as a shadow, my hand lingering on the doorframe as I looked back at him one last time. He slept like a man at peace, unaware that the woman beside him was already planning her escape. Episode 8, The War of Packs. The drums began at dawn. They were not ours. From the palace tower, I stood with Damian as the horizon darkened with shapes. Wolves, hundreds of them, marching under banners that bore the mark of a blood-red fawn. The rebel pack, Ronan's army. A chill cut through me as their howls rose in unison, a sound that made the very stones of the fortress shiver. "They're here," I whispered. Damian's eyes, golden and unyielding, never left the battlefield. His voice was quiet but sharp enough to cut stone. "Let them come. They will learn what it means to wage war against their king." I turned to him. "This isn't just about you anymore. It's about everyone. Your people, my people. Our people," he corrected firmly, his hand tightening around mine. "And I will not let them tear us apart." The bond pulsed between us like a living flame. The gates closed. Soldiers lined the walls, steel glinting beneath the morning sun. War horns blew, deep and foreboding. I could feel the warriors' fear, their uncertainty. Many of them still saw me as the outsider, the rogue, the unwanted Luna. But I would not let them falter. Not now. I strode forward, climbing the parapet until the entire army could see me. "Look at them," I shouted, my voice carrying across the wind. "They come with fear, with lies, with chains disguised as promises. They think we are weak. They think we will break. But we do not bow to traitors. We do not break to cowards. Today, we fight not as separate packs, but as one." A roar rose behind me, fierce and thunderous. For the first time, they looked at me not as a stranger, but as a commander. Damian's gaze burned with pride. The war began with fire. Arrows, blazing with oil, streaked across the sky. Wolves shifted, their howls filling the air as they leapt into the fray. The clang of steel, the snap of jaws, the spray of blood. It was chaos, pure and merciless. I fought at Damian's side, every strike of his claws an echo of his vow. He moved like a storm, untouchable, but not invincible. When Ronan's wolves broke through the eastern gate, I rallied a flank of warriors. "With me," I cried, shifting into my wolf form, my muscles burning as I tore into the enemy. The bond thrummed again, but this time it wasn't chains. It was power. His strength fueled mine, my fury fed his. Together, we carved through the battlefield, two halves of a whole. But war is never kind. By nightfall, the field was littered with bodies, the earth soaked red. And then, the true betrayal came. Ronan himself appeared, cloaked in black, flanked by assassins. They didn't charge the army. They went for the heart. They went for me. I fought, claw against claw, teeth against steel. But they had planned this. One assassin's blade grazed my ribs, fire tearing through my side. Another pinned me down, snarling. "The king falls tonight." Before his fangs could strike, Damian was there, ripping him apart with a roar that shook the earth. But in that same moment, Ronan's blade found its mark. Blood spilled across Damian's chest. My scream tore from my throat. "Damian!" He staggered, but his hand still found me, pushing me behind him. His eyes burned, even through the pain. "They will not have you," he growled, voice hoarse with blood. Not while I breathed. The battle raged around us, but in that instant, nothing else mattered. I pressed my hands to his wound, my tears blurring my vision. Don't you dare leave me. Not now, not like this. His lips curved into a faint, pained smile. So you admit it. You'd miss me. Damn you. I whispered, trembling. Yes, I'd miss you. My throat tightened, but the words broke free. I love you. The bond ignited, brighter than ever before, searing into my soul. And in his eyes, I saw it. The chains I had feared were never meant to trap me. They were meant to hold us together. The war still roared outside, but in that moment, I knew. This was not the end. This was the beginning. Because love was no longer my prison. It was my weapon, and with it, I would end this war. Episode 9, Sacrifice and Transformation. The battlefield was quiet now. Too quiet. The dawn sun rose over a land drenched in blood. Bodies, friend and foe alike, lay scattered across the trampled earth. Smoke still curled upward from torches that had burned through the night. The scent of iron clung to the air, thick and suffocating. I knelt beside Damian, my hands pressed desperately against his wound. His chest was slick with blood, his golden eyes dim but still fierce. Every heartbeat was a war, every breath a struggle. Stay with me, I whispered, voice raw. Please, stay with me. He tried to smirk, even through the pain. I told you, I'm not so easy to kill. Tears stung my eyes. You're bleeding out. Then stop crying and do something about it, he rasped. But what could I do? I wasn't a healer. I wasn't a goddess. I was just me, a Gamma who had been rejected 5 times. A Luna no one believed in. And yet, something inside me stirred. The bond. It pulsed hotter than it ever had, threads of energy weaving through my veins, into my chest, into my heart. I felt his life tethered to mine, slipping, unraveling. If I did nothing, he would be gone. And I couldn't let that happen. Not now. Not after everything. Moon goddess, I whispered into the sky, my voice breaking. If you've ever listened, if you've ever cared, take me instead. Spare him. He is their king. They need him. My throat closed, but I forced the words out. I love him. Take me. The wind shifted. The earth seemed to tremble beneath me. And then, I felt it. A warmth, vast and ancient, like silver light pouring down from the heavens, filling me until my body shook. Damian's eyes widened as the glow spread from my hands into his chest, into his wound. Lucian, he whispered. The bond ignited fully. It wasn't chains. It wasn't fire. It was wings. Silver light surged through both of us, binding soul to soul, blood to blood. His wound began to close, flesh knitting together, bone mending. But with every inch that healed, pain ripped through me. My skin burned, my veins seared, my body trembling as though it were breaking apart. Damian's hand gripped mine, fierce and terrified. Stop. You're killing yourself. I shook my head, smiling through the agony. Better me than you. No. His roar shook the air. I will not lose you. I will not accept this sacrifice. But the light was already consuming me, pulling me deeper, stripping away who I thought I was. Visions swirled before my eyes. The 5 rejections, the humiliation, the loneliness, the endless ache of believing I wasn't enough. And then, Damian. His fury, his dominance, his tenderness hidden beneath scars. His promise to protect me. His desperate plea for me to believe him. The bond was never a curse. It was never punishment. It was choice. And I was choosing him. My body arched as the transformation tore through me. Bones cracked, reforming. My wolf, my other half, exploded outward in silver flames. She was magnificent, larger than I had ever imagined, her fur glistening like starlight. The air shimmered around her, radiant with a divine power I had never touched before. Gasps echoed across the battlefield as warriors fell to their knees. The goddess has blessed her, someone whispered. Damian's golden wolf stood beside me, his eyes wide with awe and fear. Lucian. I stepped forward, my new form radiating power. The assassins who had fled stopped dead in their tracks. Ronan, still alive and bloodied, stared at me with something close to terror. You can't be, he muttered. No wolf should wield that power. I bared my fangs, silver flames licking my paws. I am not just a wolf. I am his mate, his Luna. And together, we are unstoppable. The final battle began. Side by side, Damian and I tore through the remnants of Ronan's forces. My flame-seared traitors where they stood, my claws rending through armor and flesh. Damian fought like a beast reborn, his wounds healed, his fury unbound. Ronan lunged at me, desperate, broken. His blade struck my shoulder, but it melted in the silver fire. I pinned him to the ground, my fangs at his throat. This is the end, I growled. Do it, he spat. Be the monster they fear you are. I froze. My wolf snarled, but my heart whispered something else. No, I said, rising to my full height. Killing you would make me like you. And I am more than that. I am Luna. Damian stepped forward, his claws glowing with lethal intent. But when he looked at me, he lowered his hand. As you command, my queen. Ronan was dragged away in chains, his reign of betrayal ended. The war was over, but I was not the same. The silver flames dimmed, retreating into me, leaving only an echo. My body collapsed, weak and trembling. Damian caught me in his arms, cradling me against his chest. You idiot, he murmured, his voice breaking. You gave yourself to save me. I smiled faintly, brushing his cheek. I told you, better me than you. His lips pressed to mine, fierce and desperate. No, never. From this day forward, we are equals. Your life is mine, and mine is yours. I will never let you sacrifice yourself again. The bond pulsed, not with chains, but with promise. And I knew. We were no longer two broken souls clinging to survival. We were one. When the sun rose higher, the warriors knelt before us, chanting, Luna, Alpha, King, Queen. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the rejected one. I wasn't the weak one. I was their Luna. And I was free. Episode 10, Redeemed by the Savage Bond. The war was over. At least, that's what the songs would say. But wars never truly ended with the silence of swords. They ended in whispers, in lingering wounds, in the mistrust that followed you like a shadow. When the last traitor had been chained and the battlefield cleared, Damian and I returned to the palace as victors. Yet victory tasted bittersweet. My body still ached from the transformation, and every step I took felt like walking on glass. The silver fire had given me wings, but it had also left scars, deep and invisible. And now, everyone's eyes were on me. The Court of Wolves. The grand hall had never felt so suffocating. High marble pillars stretched into the vaulted ceiling, golden banners draped on the walls, but none of that grandeur softened the sharp gazes drilling into me. Damian sat at the head of the throne, golden eyes hard and unyielding. I stood beside him, though every instinct screamed at me to run. The courtiers bowed, some in awe, some in fear, and some with reluctant resentment. Rise, Damian commanded, his voice echoing like thunder. Your king returns, and your Luna stands before you. A ripple of murmurs spread through the hall. I caught fragments. She's the Gamma's daughter. Rejected 5 times, wasn't she? But the goddess chose her. What if she curses us? The word stabbed, but I forced my spine straight. I would not let them see me falter. The old guard, Lord Kieran, an elder advisor with cold, calculating eyes, stepped forward. His voice was steady but laced with disdain. My king, we honor your victory. But it is tradition for the Luna to be of noble lineage, chosen to strengthen alliances. Forgive me, but a Gamma-born mate, rejected 5 times, may not be accepted by all. My chest tightened, but Damian's hand found mine under the table, strong and grounding. She is accepted by me, he growled, rising to his feet. And that is all that matters. Do you dare question the will of the moon goddess? The hall fell silent, no one daring to answer. Yet their doubt lingered, unspoken but heavy. I clenched my fists. This wasn't the end of their resistance. It was only the beginning. The shadows of power. That night, when the court was dismissed, Damian led me to the balcony overlooking the capital. Fires still burned in the distance where villages had been scarred by Ronan's rebellion. Wolves patrolled the streets, their silhouettes dark against the silver moon. I leaned on the railing, my thoughts heavy. They don't want me. They will, Damian said firmly, stepping behind me, his arms encircling my waist. Because I will make them. But forcing them will only breed more hate. I whispered. I can't be their Luna if they see me as an intruder. He turned me to face him, his golden eyes fierce. You are not an intruder. You are my mate. My equal. You gave yourself to save me, to save them. If they cannot see that, they are blind. I touched his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. Maybe, but redemption isn't demanded. It's earned. I know what they think of me. I know what I've been. But I'll show them who I am now. Damian studied me, then nodded slowly. Then we do it your way. Together. The ghost of the curse. Later that night, when the palace slept, I woke in cold sweat. The silver fire still burned in my dreams. The voices of the 5 who had rejected me echoed in the darkness. Not good enough. Too strong. Too cold. Too broken. And then, another voice. Low, cruel, familiar. The curse will claim you both. I bolted upright, my body trembling. Damian stirred beside me, instantly alert. Lucian. It's nothing. I lied, my voice unsteady. His hand cupped my cheek, his thumb brushing the sweat from my skin. Don't hide from me. Not anymore. I hesitated, then whispered. I heard something. The curse. It's not gone, Damian. I think it's still with us. His jaw tightened. Then we'll face it. Whatever it takes. You are not alone in this. For the first time, I believed him. A test of fire. Days later, the coronation ceremony began. I walked through the palace gates in silver robes, the weight of 1,000 eyes on me. Damian's presence was my shield, but the whispers still clawed at me. When the priestess lifted her hand, calling for silence, the air stilled. By the will of the moon goddess, we crown the king and Luna of all lichens and wolves. The crown of silver flame descended onto Damian's head, then onto mine. But as the fire touched me, pain seared through my body. I gasped, stumbling, my knees buckling. The hall erupted in chaos. "See? She is cursed," a voice shouted. "No." Damian caught me before I fell, his roar shaking the chamber. But the flames wouldn't stop. They licked at my skin, silver and burning, like the goddess herself was testing me. I screamed, but refused to yield. I forced myself to stand, trembling, every nerve on fire. And then, suddenly, the pain eased. The flames steadied, wrapping me not in torment, but in light. The hall fell silent as the fire shaped itself into wings at my back before fading into me. The priestess dropped to her knees. She is chosen. And for the first time, I saw awe, not doubt, in their eyes. Redemption. That night, Damian held me close, his forehead pressed to mine. "You could have died." I smiled faintly, exhausted but alive. But I didn't. And now they believe. He kissed me, fierce and desperate, the bond between us humming with strength. The curse still loomed. The shadows hadn't vanished. But we had survived. And maybe, just maybe, I was finally more than the girl who had been rejected 5 times. I was their Luna. I was redeemed.